So this is Warsaw. This is Plac Kraszyński Square, and on this place I'm standing on now, roughly, was once the opera, and it's the place where Chopin played his last concert, apparently in 1830 or 1832 or sometime around there. In front of me is the Newport Building, and we can see here also the monument to the Warsaw Uprising of started on 1st of August 1944. We have a sign over there for it, and some information further down there. It's a very good place because the Warsaw Uprising is mainly associated with the old town of Warsaw, which is behind me. It's associated, in fact, the uprising here was actually put down by the 2nd of September 1944, whereas the fighting continued until the beginning of October in other parts of Warsaw. But this is what's largely remembered. It's this bit here, particularly as the old town was actually rebuilt quite quickly after the war. Quite quickly, I'm speaking now in comparative terms, but well within the socialist period. Behind me here on this street here, we have one of the canal junctions for the sewers. So there's two sewers came in. It was one of the main sewers, and it was under there, and it was from this sewer here where people from around the 29th, 30th of September 1944 escaped to southern parts of Warsaw where the fighting was still going on, for example in the city centre, which is really some distance from here. You can keep walking down here in a straight line and you come to roughly where the Parliament building is there, Plac Czech in that area. And that's how far they had to walk down. I mean, in the sewer, pretty unpleasant, pretty frightening, pretty claustrophobic, and under the German lines. When the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising happened, for example, this is known that the Germans threw gas down the sewers. I don't know if they actually did it doing here, but I would imagine that there was nothing actually stopping them. Now, one of the questions that we're left with in these circumstances is the actions of the Soviet Union. Now, it's often believed that the Soviet Union actually stood on the other side of the Vistula River, and one day I'll have to film this, and did nothing to help. This actually is not entirely true. It did stand on the Vistula River, but not at the opposite end to where the rebels were actually fighting. Arguably, there's one place where it may have been, but that's later, towards the end of September. The Soviet Union, however, did offer next to no aid whatsoever to the rebels, and this is seen as some great sellout. But at the end of the day, the Polish Home Army was not allied to the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union had broken off diplomatic relations with Poland in 1943, April 1943, after the discovery of the bodies in Katyn, which the Soviets themselves had actually murdered. The problem was, of course, for the Western Allies flying as far from Brindisi and Foggia to actually support the Home Army, which was almost impossible, particularly as the Soviets had denied bases incidentally, which are only around 15 kilometers from here. So what should the attitude of the Poles be towards the Soviet Union? Well, it's clear what the Soviets it's not to cause them to blame them for a sellout or something like that, because they'd already done it. They'd already murdered the Soviet officers. It's more the attitude of the Western powers, which not putting pressure on the Soviet Union. Could they have put pressure on the Soviet Union? Maybe yes, maybe a bit more, but not. I mean, Churchill obviously wanted to. The problem was with Roosevelt. Roosevelt didn't want to. In fact, it was Roosevelt who sold out Central and Eastern Europe to the Soviet Union. In my opinion, the Soviet Union did what was to be expected. It allowed the Nazis and the Home Army to kill each other off, and I have no doubt that in some places even local truces may have been worked out with the Nazis to allow the Home Army to be finished off. That's just the sort of Soviet perfidy which could be expected. Bear in mind that the officers captured at Katyn were in fact captured when the Soviet Union was allied to Nazi Germany, and without the Nazi attack in 1st of September 1939, then the officers would never have been captured in the first place. This is the horrible truth in a way. So the question remains, what was the point of the revolt, or the rebellion in 1st of August 1944? What did they hope to achieve? Well, And with hindsight, the answer is it's hard to understand, given the fact that the officers, the men and officers of the Home Army who broke out in revolt in Vilna were also shipped off to the Soviet Union and other places where the Home Army supplied aid to the Soviets, and this has been happening since the Soviets crossed the Polish frontier on the 3rd of January 1944, the former border, not the where it stands today. And in many cases they were arrested and sent off to Siberia, if not killed outright. So sometimes they were lucky, they were just forced to join the Polish army within the Soviet army. And this was all known. It was all known to the Poles who actually broke out in revolt. I once heard somebody say, well, yes, this was just a time to die. I don't really accept that as an argument. Around 200,000 Poles may have lost their lives in the Warsaw Uprising. As many as 16,000 Germans could have been killed. It's a huge price to pay to make for a political gesture.